So what does the overseas move mean for Harley's business, and could other companies in the industry have to do the same? Let's bring in James Hardiman, leisure analyst at Wedbush Securities. James, great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. Good
When
afternoon.
I hear that Harley is eating the entire cost of the tariffs, $2,200 per motorcycle, I'm not sure how much these motorcycles go for, presumably somewhere along the lines of what, 15 to 20 grand or even higher, that they have no pricing power, that people aren't willing to pay up. And that maybe that this is just symptomatic of a lack of strong demand for these motorcycles. What's going on in terms of demand for Harley and why they can't even split some of that cost with their dealers?
I think that's right. The last few years have been a really difficult period for Harley Davidson, most notably with respect to the United States. This is probably going to be the fourth year of retail declines consecutively for the company. Europe was actually seen as a target of growth, relative outperformance versus some of the really difficult demographic trends that they've had here domestically. I think they looked at the potential of raising those prices $2,200 and thought that from a competitive standpoint, it would be counter to everything that they're trying to do in Europe and really other parts of the world. You talked about the famous meeting with some of these executives and the Trump administration. They were really hoping that TPP would be something that we'd push through because they looked at those Asian markets as major areas of expansion. Things have actually moved against them in a number of ways, and thus far, the Trump economy has not been very good for Harley Davidson.
So they're really stuck between a rock and a hard place because they're not only seeing a demand in the United States go down, but I mean, and in fact, they are actually closing and consolidating plants here, which they've already announced. But now they've got to up the cost in terms of moving some of the production overseas. What's your outlook for this stock?
We have a neutral on the stock. They faced a lot of pressure. There's an argument to be made that it's a very cheap stock, but until we see some inflection point, demand improving, it's hard to get too excited. I do think that there's an argument to be made that over the long run, the move of production to Europe may actually benefit the company. They're a company that's uniquely boxed in terms of looking to outsource any of their production, just given how important Made in America is to their customer base. So this might give them the opportunity to do that.
So how quickly?
You go ahead.
How quickly can they ramp up production in Europe, and where is it likely to be, and how many American jobs will be lost as a result of it?
Yeah, and it's the latter point was the point that I was going to get to. I think Harley's going to be able to respond to this, adjust to this much more quickly than their workers, many of whom may potentially be out of work. I'd actually be surprised if they open production in Europe. They've already got a little bit of production in India and in Thailand, as I think you pointed out earlier. I think those would be the more likely destinations of increased production out of Harley Davidson. They would still be they'd still be dealing with existing tariffs. I think the tariff on motorcycles was already 6%, but just given the cost benefits that they would get out of such a move, they might long-term be better off. Near-term, it's certainly going to hurt, as you pointed out.
I mean, it sounds like a mess, James, and that's not even to mention, don't they get hit by the steel and aluminum tariffs that everybody's retaliating against us? I mean, this has got to be one of their chief raw material costs. What's the all-in-all total of the trade action we've seen in the last few months on Harley's bottom line?
Well, it's the $90 to $100 million on an annual basis that they announced today. Earlier in the year, they talked about an incremental $15 million hit from inflationary pressures on steel and aluminum. That was 3 months ago. I wouldn't be surprised if the pinch were twice as large when they report here in the next few weeks. So I could see it being $130 million on an annual basis. Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts here, but it's very significant.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.